Anime stories have given us a lot of crazy and memorable journeys over the years, and I figured it's just as good a time to start reminiscing a bit, to look back and recall some of my personal favourite new action anime from this decade thus far. That means there'll be no sequels included in this one. As such, the list will be subjective and based on my opinion, so I'm looking forward to what picks you agree with or not once this list is done. Opening things up is a cult classic for its time, Gleipnir. Gleipnir is quite an interesting show. It didn't have much fanfare before airing, and with the manga having finished not too long ago, it's generally fallen into obscurity. I'd maintain that it's one of the beneficiaries of the delays that ravaged 2020, and with the chance it was given to make an impression, it definitely made the most of it. The premise may seem rather weird, but not too outrageous given it's Japan that we're talking about here. But where Gleipnir really shone is its fight scenes. The anime studio made the most out of its chance, wowing audiences with an amazing animated and intense fight off the gate, one that helped set the tone for the rest of the intriguing dark fantasy story. Gleipnir admittedly stumbled a little bit in the home stretch with a crammed arc that deviated from the manga, but the journey is still one fun ride. God of High School is at number 19. If you're talking breathtaking fights and a show that debuted in 2020, God of High School is undoubtedly the king of that. In fact, people have said that's the only thing it was good at, but it really executed the fights well. With how stacked the summer 2020 season was due to all the big sequels and finales, God of High School had little trouble getting the world talking. It opened with a bang, and people quickly pegged it as the anime of the season. Alas, it could only hold on to the momentum for so long, as the curse of the rushed adaptation started manifesting not long after. Still, if you're okay to watch something that's heavily skewed towards being a spectacle with some of the best fights we could have opened the decade with, God of High School might be worth a shot. Truly one of the best the decade has to offer if we're talking about combat animation and production. Trigun Stampede makes its way to the number 17 spot. Remakes can be a little bit hit or miss, especially those that look to modernize classics while offering a different perspective. For one, Kenshin was a home run that has a second season coming our way. On the other hand, there's Shaman King, a rushed adaptation that looked pretty yet missed the mark more than it hit. Thankfully, Trigun Stampede falls into the former, despite its shift in tone and focus compared to the classic that inspired it. Old-time fans may be familiar with the story of Vash the Stampede and the characters that make up most of his interactions, but they'll be pleased to see that Trigun Stampede put those things in the forefront of its narrative. It doesn't fall off in terms of the other important aspects, however, such as the comedy and the fighting. Whether you're an old-timer or a new fan wanting to learn about the show your uncles are buzzing about, you're welcome to try Trigun Stampede. At number 16, we have Eminence in Shadow. Delusional protagonist, a rainbow-haired ensemble of subservient waifu characters, and a lot of grandstanding in its action and narrative. Eminence in Shadow had all the ingredients of a seasonal show that would either be ignored or memed to oblivion. One of the two did happen, but it seemed that Eminence in Shadow simply relished in the memes instead of collapsing under the ridicule. It understood how hammy and how childish it may seem, and it emerged a winner, a show that many people have learned to enjoy. Now that's how it became one of the standout hits of the decade. Eminence in Shadow is the quintessential turn your brain off anime that lets you enjoy the ride, but it's still got a lot going for it underneath all the over-the-top ridiculousness. A cast of interesting characters that you can easily get attached to as one, and you can't deny that Sid's flexes are nothing short of memorable. This anime is a surprise hit to me, and I'm loving every second of it. At number 15, we have probably one of the more unfortunate shows on the list, Zom 100. Zom 100 had a really good start. The premise of a zombie apocalypse and a bright upstart who found a renewed purpose in life turned out to be a hit, with a healthy blend of light-hearted moments and some themes that hit close to home for the average young adult anime viewer. But what really hit the mark on the first episode was its animation. To say that people were amazed by it and never looked back was an understatement, and it was on pace to become one of the most popular hits of its season. Then the delays came. Episodes started being released sporadically, culminating with it being taken off the air and having the last few episodes released at a later date. That basically killed its momentum, and Zom 100 would end up feeling like what could have been, ironically doomed by production issues that the starting premise itself seemed to reflect. Still, watching Zom 100 in one go is still a fun ride. It's a simple story, but the characters make sure it doesn't stop being fun and filled with action. 14th in line is Tower of God. Back at the start of the decade, there were a few webtoons that people were just clamoring to get an adaptation of. Chief amongst them is this blockbuster, Tower of God. The anime gods answered, and 2020 was marked by the anime debut of this hit series. And for the most part, it delivered. Sure, the adaptation wasn't perfect, but it pretty much captured the key parts of what made the source material click. An interesting world, along with thrilling feelings of adventure and wonder, characterized Tower of God. It doesn't fall short in the action department either, and while those aren't as flashy as God of High Schools, Tower of God makes up for it by being a more complete adaptation. Unfortunately, the anime just ended rather abruptly in its initial run. There really is more of the story to tell, and the show just pulled the plug when things were starting to get good. Luckily, that is being rectified, as we're now amid the highly anticipated sequel. No better time to start watching the adaptation of the webtoon phenomenon than the present. At number 13, we have Undead Unluck. Undead Unluck, given the context of this list, really reminds me of Zom 100, as the two share some similarities. It also had a debut episode that pulled all eyes towards it thanks to some eye-popping visuals, and while the hype petered out eventually, it remained a colourful, energetic and action-packed adventure that's enjoyable in its own right. It's pretty fun, and what I liked about Undead Unluck is that the main duo has great chemistry, and their interactions, while not too unique, are fun enough to help carry things until the bigger plot starts unraveling. Undead Unluck doesn't pull any punches, both in its animation and its boldness. It's morbid, unhinged and crass, but that's also what gives it a unique charm that you just don't see as much in modern shonen. Truly a wild ride that anyone who likes shonen should try. If you're up for something short but sweet, may I introduce to you Fog Hill of 5 Elements. Three episodes around standard episode length may not be enough to tell a long story, but Chinese animation Fog Hill of 5 Elements is awesome in a lot of other ways, chiefly the action sequences. There aren't a lot of shows that aren't from the big name studios that could give the guys over at, say, UFO Table a run for their money, but Fog Hill thoroughly impressed me the moment I first saw it. In the form of a video clip, of course. Made me check it out, and I was pretty pleased with this historical adventure that fits more as a movie than a full-on anime, if we're honest. Still, those 3 episodes show me the potential in a lot of niche series out there, and it's something that you're better off watching for yourself. Oh, and it's got a sequel if you found yourself thoroughly thrilled by the first one. With 4 slightly longer episodes, the sequel provides more of the same, and by that I mean that it maintains the same tight pacing and attention-grabbing scenes. We approach the halfway mark with the fresh hit Windbreaker. Windbreaker is a show that I had some expectations for, but I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. I'm sure there's not a whole lot of them to make a sample size, but amongst teen delinquent anime, I'd say Windbreaker is arguably the best one out of all of them. And that's not just recency bias speaking. Epic fights right off the bat, all done with the help of the Cloverworks team's excellent animation team, as well as characters that you can quickly get attached to. Windbreaker is no doubt a fun watch, even for people who aren't initially into delinquent anime. It's not exactly the deepest story or anything, but that barely matters when the rest of the show manages to be as enjoyable as it is. People have felt that this is what's been missing in anime for a while. A sit back and watch the fists fly type of deal, kind of similar to my description for God of High School earlier on the list. Only this time, the plot's simple enough that it doesn't get bogged down by an obviously rushed pacing of an overarching narrative that seems like its plot and characters could be bigger or more profound than they really are. Now that we've reached the halfway mark, I'd like to ask for some likes if you like what you've seen so far. It really helps the video with the algorithm and helps the channel do better, and every bit of help would be very much appreciated. Alright, let's head back to the list with more top 10 action anime. Vivi bursts in at the number 10 spot. If you asked me about my expectations from Vivi before seeing it, I was sure that the writing would be good. After all, given the team behind it, I'm positive they'd be cooking with the plot, especially after being dealt such a good hand. After all, Vivi was built around a sci-fi world that had all sorts of intrigue, kind of reflective of technology becoming even more intertwined with our modern lives. What I didn't expect was how awesome the action would also turn out to be, especially towards the end. Being really profound and so heart-poundingly exciting aren't mutually exclusive, and Vivi is a testament to that. This anime is a winner in pretty much all aspects. The technical side of things, multi-layered characters and writing, I mean, it's not perfect, but everything is more than above average, and it feels like it had a lot of love and care put into it. It didn't receive much of a mainstream spotlight back in 2021, but it is a show that deserved more love. Powering in at number 9, we have Kaiju number 8. There are a lot of things that make Kaiju number 8 stand out at first glance. An older protagonist and a dark post-apocalyptic atmosphere are key amongst those. Snap in the common plot point of a protagonist fighting monsters after getting the same monster's powers, and it's not hard to see why this became one of the biggest shonen of 2024. That does draw similarities to things like Attack on Titan and Chainsaw Man, and like those, Kaiju number 8 excels in character depth. 12 episodes feel a tad bit short to really flesh out things like the manga does, but I think the adaptation does pretty well for itself. For those who look forward to the monster mashes that the anime advertised, they also look awesome. Production IG has done a great job at animating the fight sequences, giving them a theatrical feel and harkening back to kaiju classics like Godzilla movies. Kaiju number 8 is not only one of the best this year had to offer, but one of the best action shows of the decade. The sci-fi ride doesn't end with our 8th place entry, 86. Airing in the same season as Vivi, 86 also provides a philosophically charged narrative, one that has some political implications. At the core of it all, 86 is a show built around some non-glamorous concepts. Things like racism, trauma, the value of life, and others aren't foreign concepts in anime, but 86 really hones in on those and provides a cinematic experience when doing it. The action's exciting, from the pacing of the confrontations to the perspectives and especially the character stakes being put in those conflicts. Need I also say that it's also got a banger of a soundtrack, so shout out to Savano, who never seemed to miss. A1 really went all out for this show, and what we got is an amazing take on it, surpassing expectations of a light novel adaptation, namely the cut corners and all. The series characters have a lot of complicated feelings to grapple with, and those got reflected really well in this anime adaptation. We move on to fantasy worlds next, as Hell's Paradise is at number 7. Heading into spring 2023, MAPPA was riding a whole wave of momentum. After producing big hit after big hit, they looked to make their mark with the epic adventure series Hell's Paradise. Hell's Paradise is by no means a bad show, and if it had another team slapped onto its crew, people would be buzzing at how great it is. It's got a very attention-grabbing premise with characters that simply ooze charisma. Lofty expectations aside, Hell's Paradise did quite well for itself, and it's an adventure that leaves you wanting more by the end of it. Don't worry, we have a second second season on the way. As for when it will drop though, we can only cross our fingers. Ranking of Kings is at number 6. It took a while, but Ranking of Kings ended up being the unexpected gem of fall 2021. While everyone's eyes were glued on Mushoku Tensei and Demon Slayer continuations, Ranking of Kings quickly took the world by storm a couple of weeks in when people started becoming aware of how good it was. I blame the art, really. It caused some anime fans to not give it a chance to one of the best underdog stories the decade has given us. Funnily enough, it kind of reflects what happens to the anime itself. Just as its main character was overlooked, people typically gave this a pass until the word of mouth helped prop it into stardom. But just as its main character was born different and not completely weak, Studio Wit just did things against the grain a bit with the art. Yet underneath all of it was still an anime that is just as gripping as the headliners, with excellent character writing, very real stakes, and some great mysteries. We make our way to the top 5 now, starting things off with Solo Leveling. When the webtoon adaptations happened, they picked a big time slate of 3 titles to adapt from, but the burning question after that was, what's next? There's conspicuously one name left off the list amongst the Korean titles that got adapted into anime format, one that would be perfect for the medium. Thus, Solo Leveling became one of the hottest commodities. Think about it, a power fantasy with some edginess in it, all about someone who fight monsters to be the strongest. It's as anime as you can get, and Solo Leveling came into the airwaves with much fanfare. The result was a mixed bag in terms of reception. It didn't become super big, Demon Slayer level big or anything considering the pre-season hype. While not completely a home run, it did deliver on its promises. Anime fans excited for the adaptation got what they wanted. Some great fighting scenes and a lot of moments to remember. It's a visual spectacle and it's basically all that the customers came for. A sequel's on the way, so if you're one of the people who hopped in along with the hype, I know a lot of people who did actually, there's something for you to look out for. Speaking of pre-airing hype, few can match Chainsaw Man. Before everyone was excited about Solo Leveling, people were all ready to crown the anime of the year 2022. It was none other than Chainsaw Man. The excitement for the adaptation was something, and you just had to be there to see it for yourself. Chainsaw Man also managed to stick the landing as an adaptation and showed the world why it was that lauded. Sure, it didn't hit the mainstream echelon, but that's understandable once you know what it's all about. It's got phenomenal action scenes and all, but the actual content makes it more fitting to be a cult classic, one that's held in high regard by Western audiences. I'm talking about the dark atmosphere, the heavy subversion of tropes that Japanese audiences have admittedly grown to love, and the overall risk-taking in stories that you don't often see in anime these days. Now, if only it was longer than 12 episodes. At least we have a movie on the way. Rising in third place is Cyberpunk Edge Runners. We all know that video game adaptations are hit or miss, yet Cyberpunk Edge Runners made me rethink things. If you were to encapsulate the words adrenaline rush into an anime, then this one would definitely be it. It takes a lot of what people love from Cyberpunk's setting and packages it as a show that never stops bringing the thrill to you. There's also a focus on characters and their struggles against society to couple with the fast pace and the action. A story that's thematically as strong as that isn't typically seen in video game related anime, which seem to mostly exist to just sell their product. Netflix really found a winner with this one. My only major gripe about this is that it's shorter than the usual run. 10 episodes is a tad bit short for us to get really attached to the characters, right? Still, they tried, and that doesn't take away from my opinion that Edge Runners is one of the best action shows we've had this decade. Second place is Mushoku Tensei. If there's one thing I'll say about Mushoku Tensei, is that it's a very complete show. Whether it be action, adventure, character growth, an ever-growing world that just piques your curiosity, a healthy dose of drama and the like, Mushoku Tensei has it all, and all the elements are woven into this very long coming-of-age narrative. It's an epic that spans a long time and knows how to elicit various emotions as fans get treated to the roller coaster of a ride that is Rudeus's growing years. It's an anime where the audience is given a rare opportunity to follow a character's journey every step of the way, and the effort given to the tall task of carefully adapting the novel is something that I've just got to applaud. Mushoku Tensei may not be something that gets everyone talking, unlike the truly mainstream shows, except of course if we're talking about the controversial moments. That aside, with the way the team brought the source material into anime form, there isn't a lot to criticize. Much love has been put into this adaptation, and you can easily tell. But hey, have you ever found yourself tossing and turning around your bed, trying hard to catch some good night's sleep? I think we've all been there, and we all know that it's not fun. But then I found mantasleep, and sleeping is now a breeze. Imagine this, you're lying in your cozy bed, and no matter what time of day it is, you're surrounded by complete darkness, the perfect condition for a quality sleep. That's how mantasleep masks work their magic. They're not your average sleeping mask, they're designed to be comfortable, adjustable, and with 100% blackout. I've been wearing the mantasleep sound mask, and it's like having my own little cave of peace wherever I go. And if you're like me who listens to music while you're sleeping, it even has razor thin Bluetooth headphones with 20-hour battery life. And these C-shaped eye cups are heaven, and there's no pressure on your eyelids or lashes whatsoever. The cool, airy materials and ventilation keep things cool throughout the night too. Are you ready to transform the way you sleep? Hurry to Manta's website by clicking the link in the description down below. And as a little bonus treat, you can use my code to get 10% off your radar. Sweet dreams. And never forget that having enough sleep is essential to binging your favorite anime series. There's no doubting Jujutsu Kaisen's legacy. As I stated in the introduction, it was one show that we all had the pleasure of seeing grow from promising shonen to the media juggernaut that it's become now. And that's all well deserved, seeing as how well it juggles popular elements from its supernatural shonen predecessors and builds on them. It's well executed in the areas that matter a lot to shonen fans, like the fights and cool powers, but Jujutsu Kaisen is an anime that's not solely carried by the animation or anything like that. If anything, it's not afraid to take a turn left once in a while and pull some shocking yet well thought twists out. It also has better thematic depth than you'd expect from something in this genre. Jujutsu Kaisen is a phenomenon at this point, practically the modern generation's version of the Jump Big 3 or AOT that took their respective generations by storm. Expectedly so too, as it's what one can call to be a dream battle shonen. It's got a way to please an entire spectrum of anime viewers with varying tastes, and that's exactly what makes it so great. The question is, do you think Jujutsu Kaisen is the action anime of the decade, or do you have something else in mind? You know what to do. Head on down to the comments and tell me what you think. We'll see how the list changes given some more time. If you do have some more time, you might want to check out our other videos on the channel. Who knows, you could find a show or a type of video that's really to your liking. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again. Stay strong, stay awesome. ViniiTube signing off.